the best conference in college football. It is the Southeastern Conference. It is the SEC. Let's get right into it, shall we? You're the defending champion, the Georgia Bulldogs, who stumped the Mohawk and walk it dry to the LSU Tigers by a 2-month 50-30 in the SEC championship game before they went on to win the national championship game over TCU. Speaking of winning the national championship game, Georgia Bulldogs are back-to-back national championships. They beat Alabama the year before, and then obviously the ones that's brought up last year when they demolished TCU. LSU is your SEC West champions the first time since 2019 when they won the national championship. That's when they had Joe Burrow, Jamar Chase. Um, they had somebody else. I can't think of his name right now. That's when they had they ridiculous behind offense. Okay, Clyde Edwards-Helaire. I did say Jamar Chase. They just had a ridiculous behind offense that just put up 50 points a game, and you couldn't catch them. All right, that's ridiculous. You just couldn't catch them. All right. Uh, Georgia went 15-0 overall, 8-0 in conference. They did not lose a game last year. LSU 10-4 overall, 6-2 in conference play. Alabama 11-2 overall, 6-2 in conference play. And yeah, that loss to LSU really hurt. Really, really hurt. So those of you who, if you've seen the preview video of this show about the SEC, that video of LSU throwing the ball to the tight end on the flat and tight end getting in and scoring, that was against Alabama. That was that year. That was last year. The game that Alabama lost to LSU in Death Valley. Tennessee 11-2, 6-2 in conference play. Their injury to Hayden Hurker was the devastating part of them. He got hurt, and Tennessee was pretty much done from that point forward. All right, that was it for them. So that was how the conference shaped out last year. Also, this is the final year for the current conference. As Oklahoma and Texas will be joining us at the end of the sports calendar year, which will be July 2024. So get ready for that. OU and Texas will be joining the SEC. Now, for the final season, for the final year of the current SEC, Georgia's picked to win the East for a third consecutive year. Alabama is poised to regain the SEC West, according to the media polls. Of course, because anytime Nick Saban doesn't achieve the ultimate goal, he comes back with vengeance. We all know this. We have been through it. We've seen it before, and we just talked about it in the Swamp Kings when he got beat by Florida in 08. He came back in 09 and put Florida down. You have Tennessee second in the East, LSU second in the West, South Carolina third in the East, Texas A&M third in the West. You have my Gators down number fifth in the West. They got my Gators finishing ninth in the total conference play, right behind Ole Miss and Kentucky. But we shall see. And the schedule doesn't favor us that much, but yeah, we'll see. That's why they play the game like Chris Berman says. But key games for your top 16, for your top five teams. I did top five in the SEC. Beginning with the defending national champion of the year, Georgia Bulldogs. Their first test doesn't come to September 16th when they host South Carolina at between the hedges of Athens, Georgia. Their first test of a road game comes in at the end of the September 30th when they got to go to Jordan Hare Stadium and take on the Auburn Tigers, the oldest rivalry in the South. And then on October 7th, they host Kentucky before, and then they take a couple of weeks. And then 2 weeks after that, I was going to say 3 weeks after that, should I say? October 28th, right here in the city that I reside in, at the Jacksonville, Florida, born and raised. It is the annual Florida Georgia game, formerly known as the world largest cocktail party, but they don't even want to do that no more. Nevertheless, October 28th, right here in Jacksonville, Florida, Florida Georgia meet once again. Then November 11th, they host Ole Miss in Athens, Georgia, and then they last test comes in November 18th when they host. Well, no, when they got to go to Knoxville, Tennessee to take on the Tennessee Volunteers. That is the reigning defending champions key games going into this year. Let's look at the team that they beat to get to the college football pro. That would be the LSU Tigers out of the West and their first test comes this Sunday down in Orlando, Camping World Stadium. I guess the Florida State Seminoles. I could be diving into that game. We shall see. Then at the end of the month of September, on the 30th, they gotta go to Oxford, Mississippi to take on the Ole Miss Rebels. And the Ole Miss Rebels do want payback because when they went to Death Valley, they took one on the chin. October 14th, that's down in Death Valley. The Auburn Tigers come rolling into the Baton Rouge, so Tiger versus Tiger down in Death Valley. November 4th, the trip to Tuscaloosa to face off with the Alabama Crimson Tide. The week after Alabama, my Florida Gators come rolling into Death Valley for that one. And then your last test comes at home in Death Valley, November 25th, when the Aggies of Texas A&M come storming into Death Valley. That's the LSU key game. Let's look at Alabama's key games. September 9th, they host Texas in Tuscaloosa. September 23rd, a visit from Lane Kiffin and the Ole Miss Rebels. And you know Lane Kiffin want one. He want one over Nick Saban. He wants one. October 7th, a trip to College Station to take on Jimbo Fisher and the Texas A&M Aggies. Circle that game as well, because the only assistant coach to ever beat Nick Saban is Jimbo Fisher. So Jimbo wants another one. And then October 21st, the Volunteers of Tennessee come to Tuscaloosa, and you know Nick Saban has his eyes on that game after he went to Knoxville and saw his Crimson Tide take a L to the Tennessee Volunteers. And you know he got that game circled for payback. So Tennessee better be prepared on October 21st. November 4th, as I mentioned for the LSU slate, that's when LSU goes to Tuscaloosa to take on Alabama. And then, even though this is October 25th, that should be November 25th, Thanksgiving week, the annual Iron Bowl at Jordan Hare Stadium against the Auburn Tigers. So they got to go to Auburn for the Iron Bowl. That's Alabama. Let's look at Texas A&M. Texas A&M, same time when Alabama hosts Texas. Texas A&M will be taking a trip to Coral Gables to take on the Miami Hurricanes. That's a big road game right there. That is a huge road game because Texas A&M survived at home. Now they got to go to Miami. We shall see how that goes. That should be an interesting one right there. September 30th is a game against Arkansas at the $1 billion pay Ben Jerry's Real in Arlington, Texas. October 7th, a home game against Alabama. October 14th, the week after, they go to Knoxville to take on the Tennessee Volunteers. Then they open up the month of November on the 4th at Ole Miss and finish it off on the road in Baton Rouge, Louisiana, November 25th at LSU. And for the Tennessee Volunteers, they get their stuff started off this weekend, this Saturday, when they meet Virginia. And I believe that game is at Nissan Stadium. Then on the 16th of September, they come to Gainesville, Florida to take on the Florida Gators. That should be interesting with Billy Napier and company to see how that goes. As I mentioned with Texas A&M, October 14th, they host the Aggies and Jimbo Fisher. The week after that, they go to Nick Saban and Alabama in Tuscaloosa. After that, they go to Kentucky. That's a nasty stretch for Tennessee. You host Jimbo Fisher and A&M. You go to Tuscaloosa, then the week after you go to Kentucky. That's a nasty stretch for the Tennessee Volunteers. And then your last key game is November 18th when you host the Georgia Bulldogs. So those are the key games right there. Those are it. And you know the media's picking Georgia to win it. Not surprising. And unfortunately for me, I'm picking the Georgia Bulldogs to win the SEC again. I know right now there's a lot of Gator fans that are looking at me with that look of disgust, disdain. But if y'all know me, y'all have seen me done this show. Y'all have seen me do Ramley Talk. Y'all have seen me do Arch Rival. You see me guest appearance on shows like Snowman in the Morning. You know I keep it 100% and honest. Alabama, LSU, Tennessee, all have more tougher schedules than Georgia. Georgia has probably the easiest schedule in the country. So how are you going to stop them from going undefeated this season? Okay, go back to the key games. Look at the key games. They at home against South Carolina. They go to Auburn. That's a key. That's a tough one. They host tennis. They host Kentucky. Okay, you always got to sucker the game against Florida here in Jacksonville. They got Ole Miss at home. It's a home game, and they have Tennessee on the road. So you only two road games of key games for me when it comes to Georgia, and that's at Auburn and it's at Tennessee. Other than that, you have your normal neutral site game against Florida, and you're hosting you you host South Carolina, you host Kentucky, and you host Ole Miss, man. Like it just sets up for Georgia, man, and Kirby Smart. It just sets up for them. And yes, I feel like throwing up right now. I feel like I don't even want to do anything else after this because I'm sitting here picking Georgia to win the SEC. I'm just, but yeah, I'm picking Georgia. So that is my final pick for conference championship previews. I have Clemson Tigers winning the ACC for the eighth time in 9 years. I have the Michigan Wolverines making it a three-peat in the Big Ten. I have the Oklahoma Sooners doing the double bird to the Big 12, saying, y'all must have forgot who owned this conference, and it's the Sooners. I have the Oregon Ducks bouncing back and taking back the Pac 12. And I have the Georgia Bulldogs winning the SEC yet again.